What's going on, everybody? It's me, Noah, here, and today I feel like talking about Toy Story 5.
It's good to see them fighting again.
It sure is.
I'm a huge fan of the Toy Story franchise. I was born in 2001, so basically as far back as I can remember watching movies, Toy Story has been a massive part of my life. When Toy Story 3 came out in 2010, around that time, I had already been obsessed with Toy Story for years, but that Christmas, and just in general, I was so into the Toy Story signature collection from Thinkway Toys. I actually have basically the entire collection outside of some of the toys from Toy Story 4. And on Mr. Potato Head, I was never able to get him, but basically I have all those toys, so Toy Story has meant an incredible amount to me in my life. Now, obviously, we're here to talk about Toy Story 5 today, but before Toy Story 5, I'm just gonna mention Toy Story 4 because this movie is obviously so important to the franchise and to the state of where the movie is for number 5. But going into Toy Story 4, I was already skeptical because of how much I love those first 3 movies. So 2019, I remember being nervous and I went to the theater and unfortunately I left disappointed. And now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of amazing stuff about Toy Story 4. Like obviously the animation is probably the best Pixar has ever done in terms of realism. The way they were able to do the rain in that first opening scene with RC was just wonderful. And the first like 20 or so minutes of Toy Story 4 I think is amazing. I think it's a great way to kind of show how Woody's feeling with everything going on with Bonnie. But then as the movie gets, more into the story, when they go on their little road trip, I start to become frustrated with basically everything going on in the movie, from the characterization of Woody and the decision that he ends up making to leave at the end of the movie. And then what really bothers me, honestly, is Buzz Lightyear in this movie. He is just pressing the button on his chest, listening to his voice, and he's acting like an idiot. It's totally out of character, in my opinion, for the Buzz that we had seen for the first 3 movies. I do think that when you take a look at the Gabby Gabby storyline, it kind of makes sense why Woody made his decision, but anyways, not exactly what I totally wanted to see there from Toy Story 4. That being said, I didn't think they were going to make another Toy Story movie. Obviously, it made so much money, it won the Oscar, so it wasn't really out of question, but when they announced Toy Story 5, I was extremely nervous once again, especially now even more because of how I had felt about Toy Story 4. It didn't really make sense to come and do a 5. Is Woody going to be in this movie? Is he not going to be in this movie? There was a lot of questions going into 5, especially coming out of that D23 where they said we were going to have an army of Buzz Lightyears as the villain of the movie. That didn't really excite me all that much. We've already seen Evil Buzz. It's been a thing that we've done before, especially like Toy Story 3 had that for almost half the movie. So I wasn't too excited going into Toy Story 5, to be honest. Everything kind of changed a little bit for me when I had seen the first trailer for Toy Story 5.
Halt! Who goes there? Whoa, whoa, whoa! I come in peace?
It's been too long, cowboy.
What are you, some sort of old man toy?
What?
She thinks you're old because you're bald, Woody.
And now, I don't think this is like the world's greatest trailer. I don't think that it made it look better than the original 3 movies. But almost immediately, I had felt like this movie was going to be more cohesive and it was going to understand a little bit more what it means to tell a story in this world, like a Toy Story, obviously. And number 4, everybody calls it Woody's story. It's a lot of people don't really consider it to be a full Toy Story movie, but this one felt like it was going back to kind of the roots of how to tell a Toy Story. And the idea of doing tech versus the toys, I think, is a wonderful idea. Like in this day and age, obviously kids grow up way differently than they used to. I feel like I was part of one of the last generations to grow up not completely on iPads and phones and stuff like that. Obviously I had that as my childhood as I got a little older, as I progressed through my childhood, but it wasn't something that we were glued to when we were 3 years old. Still being the early 2000s, stuff like that wasn't quite as common as it is, say, today. I spent the day at work that I was going to see Toy Story 5 nervous, excited, just really, eager to see what they had to do here. And to be honest, I came out of the movie with a massive smile on my face. Let me just start by saying I don't think that this is better than any of the first 3 movies. This to me is still below those ones, but it is a lot closer to what made the original trilogy so powerful, so good, so funny. And 4 to me is still below that. I don't like it quite as much, but 5, man, they were able to tap into the classic Toy Story emotions. Here, there is so many moments in this movie that I feel match some of the top moments that Pixar has ever done. One in specific, obviously if you've seen this movie, you know what moment I'm talking about. It comes towards the end, and I was crying. I couldn't believe how emotional I was watching this movie, because the first 3, they really get me, and just The ties to Toy Story 2 that they had done in this movie, I just thought were outstanding. I really wasn't expecting to see something like that, and it was just such a great experience to see. So I'll start without really saying any spoilers of this movie, but the main thing that you kind of need to know with this is that it's a little bit more of a Jessie-centric story as opposed to like Woody or the rest of the toys. She's definitely like the main character of the movie, although I have no issues with that. I think it works great for what they were going for. And one thing that's really different about this Toy Story movie in comparison to be honest, all the other ones is Bonnie is a real character in this movie. Like, she has actual emotions and you're following her storyline, a lot of it, kind of seeing what she is going through, what's happening to her on a day-to-day basis. And typically that's never really been the case. Like, obviously Andy was a big character in the Toy Story movies, but he wasn't really the focus. Like, Andy was going to college, so the toys then have to do this, or Andy, goes to cowboy camp, so Woody, all that kind of stuff that leads them to having to go and save Woody from Al and all that, whereas it's not really like Andy is a big character. If anything, the more human characters in the Toy Story movies have been like Sid and Al. I guess Bonnie is still a little bit more of a character in Toy Story 3, same with Andy, but not quite as much. Not nearly as much as what they're doing with Bonnie here in 5. It feels a lot more similar to something like Inside Out, which I actually think is great because I think the Inside Out movies are some of the best things that Pixar has ever done. They're very important messages for kids to see and to understand, and mixing that kind of formula with the formula of a Toy Story movie is just a great way to reverse kind of what they did with 4, in my opinion, and just get back to the more status quo of Toy Story. There are also a few new characters in this movie. The best one, definitely Smarty Pants, voiced by Conan O'Brien. He's a funny character, another tech character. There's a bunch of new tech characters in this movie that all kind of play into that story of like, what does tech do to kids? How do the tech feel about it? And then the other obvious main character is Lily Pad, voiced by Greta Lee. And Lily Pad is a interesting villain in the movie for sure. Once again, being that tech and how bad tech is for kids and how it can be. And although that isn't necessarily the entire message of the movie, Lily Pad is kind of a good way to get started with that theme. Everything else was also just great about this movie. The animation was really, really strong. It wasn't necessarily the photorealism that Pixar went for with Toy Story 4. It kind of feels more in line with Toy Stories 1 through 3. Obviously 1 and 2 have the older animations, the 90s, the late 90s, but they still don't look bad whatsoever, especially Toy Story 2, whereas this movie feels a little bit more in the style of Toy Story 3 as opposed to 4. And then there are these excellent sequences in the movie that they did show in the trailer as well, so not very spoilery, that when Bonnie is playing with the toys, similar to how in Toy Story 3 the opening was the giant train scene and it was like Andy's imagination with the toys, we get to see what it looks like when Bonnie is playing with the toys, and it's this very, very cool animation that is way different than anything that we've seen with Pixar. It was honestly very, very creative. It was a way to give the toys life, let them speak, be their characters, and it was honestly, every single time they had one of those sequences, I just had a giant smile on my face. It was very cool to watch. So I'm gonna get a little bit into spoilers now. So if you haven't seen this movie, this is the point where I would recommend just clicking off, going and seeing the movie, forming your own opinion. But the biggest spoiler of this movie for sure, the number one most emotional moment that everybody is discussing, is the moments when Jessie finds out what happened with Emily and her owner. And in this movie, we have a storyline where basically Bonnie gets the lily pad and she starts to become obsessed with technology. And through this, Jessie finds out through other toys that tech is just taking over everywhere. Every single kid has kind of stopped playing with toys. Jessie does call Woody and they have a little discussion about it. There's this amazing scene where Woody's kind of looking over the town and so is Jessie, and we're just seeing kids glued to phones, tablets, video games, all that kind of stuff. Honestly, same kind of thing that we're all doing. Like me, I sit home at my desk, I'm playing video games, or a lot of the kind of stuff. You look through my window, you would see the exact same thing as what you were seeing in that movie there. After Jessie discovers that tech has kind of taken over, she decides that she's gonna go on to this play date that was set up. Lilypad makes Jessie a bunch of friends through the connections online, and then Jessie decides that she is gonna go and try and solve the problem, and she ends up getting lost, and some old couple finds her and says, we're gonna deliver her home, and she finds the address on the inside of Jessie's boot, and of course that is the address that Emily wrote on there from Toy Story 2, Jessie's original owner. Now this movie really perfectly ties the theme of Jessie's abandonment to Toy Story 2. The movie starts out with the melody of When Somebody Loves Me, and it's Emily swinging on the tire swing that they had from Toy Story 2 with Jessie watching, and it's just an amazing sequence, and it kind of reminds you of Jessie's story and what we're going to be seeing here. And then Jessie ends up getting returned to that original address where Emily lived, and she meets Smarty Pants, the new toys. She tries to connect Blaze, the new kid that lives at that house, with all her toys and with Bonnie, and she basically has the Smarty Pants send a message to Lily Pad that Jessie and Bullseye are now at this house and they need Bonnie to come and save her because Jessie just needs to get back to Bonnie. That abandonment is strong for her, so she really wants to just be there for Bonnie despite the technology. But then when everything goes wrong and Bonnie gets made fun of from her friends in a group chat because of that message that Jessie had sent, Bonnie decides that she says she doesn't want the toys anymore. Jessie really feels that abandonment, so she leaves the house and she decides to go over to the tire swing to just kind of sit and be with her emotions the same way that she was with Emily when, in all those years ago in Toy Story 2. Now, once Jessie gets to the tree, Bullseye arrives, there's a whole little nice sequence, and then Jessie sees something carved in the tree that says Jessie was here. And obviously she's confused because she didn't do that, and this is the tree that, she grew up playing with Emily while Emily was a child, and they find this little box, this lunchbox buried in the ground, and when Jessie opens it, she's confused because everything's a little bit newer than the stuff that Emily had, and then she finds this Polaroid picture of what is Emily as an adult with her daughter, and then on the back she says to Jessie, and you basically discover that Emily had named her child after Jessie, and there's a moment in the film where Jessie just can't believe that Emily did that, and she kind of realizes what an impact she had on Emily growing up. And even though she had always thought that Emily had abandoned her, she believed that at this moment that she was there for Emily when she needed to be. And that's all that really matters, because growing up, kids might need a toy for a little bit of time, and depending on how long that is, it still made an impact in their life, it still made them happy, and this was just honestly one of the greatest Pixar moments I've ever seen. I was crying. I couldn't believe the emotions here, it tying to Toy Story 2. It was just amazing. And then afterwards, we discovered that Lily Pad had basically thrown herself away because of everything that happened with Bonnie and the kids making fun of her, but then the toys try to find Lily Pad. They want to connect Bonnie and Blaze together because they're very similar kids who have trouble making friends, but they get along well. So they go and they rescue Lily Pad, and then there's this whole storyline about these Buzz Lightyears that crash landed on an island, a whole bunch of them, high-tech buzzes. And throughout the movie, they're kind of going around finding out what is their mission, what is Space Command, and then there's a whole nice sequence where basically one of the buzzes gets kidnapped by a kid when a kid finds him, and then they try to rescue that buzz, but when they open the tent, the buzz is kind of like being held by the kid during like a story time, and the buzz gives a little thumbs up, all the other buzzes realize it's okay. It's just a wonderful sequence of them realizing what their actual true purpose is, and then they end up capturing Woody and taking him hostage. Real Buzz Lightyear comes along, tells them that their true mission is to make a kid happy, and then those buzzes help rescue Lily Pad. They engage their high technology through Lily Pad scans a QR code on the Buzz Lightyears, downloads an app, and they basically turn into drones, carry them all home. Blaze and Bonnie connect, and it's this wonderful moment of these two kids that realize that they're similar, and they obviously are forming a friendship. And it's one of those things that you watch and you just feel like, I remember that moment when I made a friend that was like me and we became best friends and we stayed friends, all that kind of stuff, right? So it's just this amazing message of what does it mean to be a kid? What does it mean to grow up, especially with technology? How important is it for children to make real connections, and what does that mean for them? Now, a lot of the Toy Story movies, a lot of the stories and themes were specific to the toys, and they definitely are in this movie because we have the message of Jessie understanding what she really did for Emily, and despite her feeling abandoned, she now realizes that's not the case. She needed her for a certain time, and that was so impactful to Emily that she had named her daughter after her. So obviously that's an amazing theme for the toys themselves. But then we haven't really had a Toy Story movie that has shown so much growth and such a character arc for one of the kids. And what Bonnie goes through in this movie is so realistic to what so many kids do go through in life, and getting bullied for playing with toys, all this kind of stuff. I remember certain things like that. Obviously, take a look around my room. I love toys and collections and stuff like that. And I remember those feelings of wondering, am I gonna get bullied for this thing, or I can't really be my true self. And the movie has a great way to explain that, and it overall just made me feel so good about the Toy Story franchise and where we're currently sitting. Like I said, I don't think this is as good as the original three. I think those ones are just so magical, but this was able to tap back into the Pixar magic that we're used to seeing from one of these stories. There are rumors, of course, that we are going to get a Toy Story 6 after this. Toy Story 5 currently is projected to finish at about $1.3 billion at the box office, so it's going to be one of the biggest movies of the year. It is a smash hit for Pixar. And at this point, I do believe we're going to get a Toy Story 6 to kind of round out the second trilogy, and we'll have the original trilogy, and then we'll have these movies. And considering that Toy Story 4 was a very Woody-centric movie that really kind of concluded his story, and then Toy Story 5 was like a Jessie-themed movie that connected her back to her original story, I think that it's a no-brainer that Toy Story 6 is going to be focused on Buzz Lightyear and something with his character, and a lot of people are suggesting Andy coming back. I had personally always felt that it would be great to see, you know, Andy. Years ago, I had thought it would have been great to see if Andy had kids that got obsessed with technology, so he decided that he wanted to try and find his toys or something like that. The only problem with that nowadays when I think about Andy is that it kind of takes away from the ending of Toy Story 3 and what does it really mean to move on. But despite whatever they do with Toy Story 6, I currently have a lot more faith in Pixar to complete this trilogy than I did after Toy Story 4. Toy Story 5 is a lot more on the right track, what I want to see from Pixar, and it doesn't surprise me with Andrew Stanton coming back to this one, being a writer on the original Toy Stories, having directed WALL-E, Finding Nemo, just some of these amazing Pixar classic movies, and even Finding Dory he did. I don't think that it's nearly as bad of a sequel as a lot of people do. I don't think it is as good as Toy Story 5. I do think Toy Story 5 is a lot better. But once again, it's just great to see Pixar back on the right track with Toy Story. It makes me very excited about the future, and I've already seen this movie twice. I want to go and see it again because it's just a wonderful experience, and it made me incredibly happy as a massive, longtime Toy Story fan. Anyways, guys, let me know what you thought of Toy Story 5. If you've seen it, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't seen it, maybe you're not planning on watching it because obviously you've sat through the spoilers if you're at this point, so let me know what you think of my description of the movie, I guess. Anyways, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm gonna be talking a little bit more about the Toy Story franchise as a whole. I'd like to make a video discussing all the movies, kind of how I feel about each one specifically, maybe a ranking, and let me know if there's any other movies you'd like me to talk about anytime soon. Anyways, guys, I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Thank you for watching.